Good morning, friends and enemies. In today's video, we're going to go through everything that I think is super fantasy relevant for you and the things that caught my eye over the weekend that will be moving players up or down my rankings in fantasy. I do this every single Monday morning, so subscribe to the channel if you want the updates next Monday, as well as in the regular season. We do a live stream recapping everything that happened on Sundays. With the preseason, as I always note, it is important not to overreact to stat lines. It is important not to overreact to big plays. It is important not to overreact to players playing well against backups and second stringers. What we're trying to find out are snap counts, are who's involved on the goal line, are, who is running routes from the slot, more usage-based tendencies so that we get an idea of like what the coaches are trying to do with their teams and what we can expect going into the regular season. And as always, we get glimpses of that going into and out of the preseason. We will start at the very top of the list with injuries, however, because there's always a plethora of injuries when we have NFL games, when we have the strongest, biggest, fastest men on the field in the world running at each other. We are going to start with some injury updates that did not actually happen on the weekend, but that we've gotten some progress in over the last few days, over the last week or whatever. The first one would be Matt Stafford. When you guys watch this, I have a feeling we're going to have a more concrete update. And from what I've heard, it might not be great. So we might have some massive changes by the time you hear this. Matt Stafford was supposed to throw on Saturday and get a workout in after the one previously was canceled because he wasn't feeling good enough to do so. And we did not get a report of him being out there throwing, and there was no answer as to whether or not he did go out there. But Sean McVay said he was going to address the media on Monday. So I'm going to be holding my breath for that report. We'll have to wait and see what we get from that. This is one of the problems. This is one of the tough parts about doing fantasy content throughout the summer. It's like we obviously have to edit these videos and get them turned around to you. So it's like I can't give you real-time news. It's, I give you the best with the information I have at hand. So Matt Stafford, we should be getting an update Monday morning. If you're watching this afterwards, you've probably already seen it or should be expecting one soon. If he's going to miss time or if he's going to need surgery or something like that, it's a huge hit, obviously, to everyone involved. Sure, Jimmy G would take his place, and he's like one of the better upper echelon backups in the NFL. There ain't no fucking way you come anywhere close to the ceiling that a Puka or a Devontae or a Kyron Williams could have had with Matt Stafford under center with Jimmy G. So they would all get knocked down a huge peg in the rankings, all right? Let's talk about some guys that are not necessarily moving down my rankings too much despite the injury tags that they are facing right now. The first one is devon achane. He's been a huge favorite of mine this summer. He's a guy that I'm targeting in the early to mid second round. If I go with a high-end wide receiver, devon achane is a guy I'm targeting on the turn after that. And we just got news a couple days ago, I think it was like August 14th or whatnot, that he is dealing with a lower body soft tissue injury. It is reportedly not expected to be serious. This is the time of the year where, you just don't play guys. You don't practice them if they're dealing with these types of injuries. We should get a report within the coming days and see if he is back at practice. I am not panicking yet. Obviously, the closer we get to the season and the more serious these injuries are, the less we want to draft those guys and go into the year with guys banged up. But at this particular time right now, we still have about 3 weeks before the season kicks off, and that's pretty much enough time for you to heal from any grade 1 muscle injury. If it's a grade 2 injury, we would probably know by now, and they'd be like, yeah, he's going to miss a lot of time. This is something more serious. Grade 2 is normally in that like 4 to 6 week range of recovery. Grade 1 is somewhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So we're still in that like sweet spot window for the most part. If you suffer something non-serious right now, you can be fine for week 1. So I'm going to keep devon achane in the not worried about it quite yet bucket. Same thing with Josh Downs. He pulled up on, I think it was like Friday or Thursday at the Colts practice with a hamstring injury. And it looks like he's probably in the grade 1 realm as well. Josh Downs has been a guy that's dealt with some injuries so far in the NFL. Maybe he's getting this one out of the way early on in the summer. Josh Downs, with Achane, it's obviously a little bit riskier because you're drafting him so early. Josh Downs is a guy that's not necessarily going very early in drafts anyways, so I'm probably not going to penalize him too much further because he's a guy I do want on my fantasy teams. He's a guy that I think is an incredible wide receiver. And if things can click for the Colts offense, I think he's going to be a big reason why and have a big year in fantasy. So he's already like an, 8th, 9th, maybe even 10th round pick after the injury. That's a guy that I'm still comfortable targeting in that range. As for some of the actual injuries that happened in the games played over the weekend, one, we got Marshawn Lloyd, who is now dealing with a hamstring injury. I believe he pulled up at one of the very last plays he was in on. Marshawn Lloyd was the day 2 pick for the Green Bay Packers, running back out of USC last year, was supposed to be the backup to Josh Jacobs, but missed basically all of last year with various injuries. Started to miss time again this summer with injuries, and now he's dealing with another injury. Matt LaFleur came out and said, yeah, he's going to miss some time. That felt a little bit more firm. That did not feel like a, hey, he's day to day. We'll see if he could practice this week. That one felt a little bit more ominous. But Marshawn Lloyd, the leash has to be getting short here. The guy cannot stay healthy, not stay on the field. Emmanuel Wilson will take his place if Marshawn Lloyd has to miss time. Again, though, I think it all just kind of comes back to we should be projecting a massive workload for Josh Jacobs going into 2025. With the Packers as well, we don't have any Jaden Reed foot updates, unfortunately. Jordan Love did undergo not really a serious procedure on his non-throwing hand, but he will be out for the remainder of the summer. But he is fully expected to be ready for week 1, so there's no panic on Jordan Love or that passing game right now as it pertains to the quarterback, at least. Quentin Johnston, he got to it, man. He got a deep ball thrown to him from Justin Herbert, went up to catch it, got laid out, just flattened. And he went, I won't do it. It was kind of graphic, but yeah, Quentin Johnston had to, I believe, get carted off the field, went to the hospital, has a concussion. And we'll get into the game a little bit and some takeaways as it relates to the Chargers, but he's dealing with concussion. I believe Jalen McMillan is dealing with concussion as well. He went up to go get a high-pointed ball over the middle. This is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver, sophomore out there. Came down like on his neck and kind of like flattened his shit up a little bit. It looked like a hook. It looked like he was kind of fucked up. So it's either a neck injury or a concussion. I actually didn't confirm right before I started filming this, but I believe he tweeted something out or posted on Instagram that he was like, okay, so I'm expecting him to be fine for the regular season. Dominick, I actually don't know how to say his last name. Is it Puni or Puni? One of you 49ers fans. I think it's Puni. It's got to be. Puni is weird. It's Dominick Puni, their second-year guard, who was a hit for them in the draft last year. And the interior of their offensive line is not great. And he just tweaked his PCL, and I believe he is going to miss like a month right now. And that's going to linger into the regular season. They were getting blown up by the Raiders on Sunday. The interior of their offensive line is a little bit worrisome. I ain't going to lie, especially when Trent Williams is not out there. He should be good for the regular season, but he's only one player on the edge of that line. But all to say, that's a big kind of underlying injury on the interior of the San Francisco 49ers offensive line. So we're going to move past injuries. We're going to move into some of my takeaways from the actual games. And again, I'm going to remind you, like, I'm not going to be here and be like, oh, this guy went like 3 for 45. He was so good with the starters, even though I'm actually about to literally do that, rookie Pearsall. But regardless, this is more so usage and takeaways. So for instance, when we talk about Carolina and Houston, CJ Stroud got a nice chunk of snaps, 14 of them. So we saw Nico Collins and Christian Kirk basically operate as every down players. That's not too unobvious. It's not too unevident at this point that those are the first two guys right now. What's a little bit worrisome is that Xavier Hutchinson ran pretty much every snap with the starters here, where Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel were both kind of afterthoughts in the wide receiver group. So it might be time to pump the brakes a little bit with the rookies for the time being. It's gonna run through Nico Collins, obviously. It's gonna run through Christian Kirk as the slot guy. As for who's playing opposite, it was Jaden Higgins. He was listed atop the depth chart, but the way that the play time has been split up between him and Xavier Hutchinson was split last week in their game, and then it went completely in favor of Xavier Hutchinson in this one. So I don't know that for sure Jaden Higgins has the starting second wide receiver outside slot locked up for the time being. In that backfield, we had Nick Chubb take the majority of the snaps with the starters there. Joe Mixon's obviously still dealing with this like weird, mysterious foot ankle injury that we don't know anything about. The last update we had was from the beat reporter out of Houston, Aaron Wilson, saying that he might not be ready for week 1. Feels ominous as well. We're not hearing anything out of that camp. It's Nick Chubb. Dameon Pierce had been splitting a lot of snaps with the ones throughout training camp and practice. He just didn't play in this game. So that might have been why Nick Chubb got, such extended run. But I will say one of the bigger takeaways, like Woody Marks, the rookie out of USC this year, has gotten a lot of hype as a potential like pass catching specialist, or, people think he might like take over the backfield. That doesn't seem to be the case. One, because he's definitely not getting early down run at all right now, but Darian Gumbawale has actually been playing on all of the pass catching downs ahead of him with the starters so far this preseason. And it obviously you're not grabbing a Gumbawale, but like Woody Marks was a late round guy. And it's not that he can't take it over the first, month or so of the season, but it feels like this is very much an uphill battle to go find this guy in your draft and hope that he gives you enough value to keep him on the bench or whatnot. I just think the Texans coaching staff kind of trusts Dare there, and he's been there. He's a veteran. Like, he's been there for a while. He's going to be a good pass blocker. He's going to be a guy that will not mess up his routes or anything like that. So I think he's kind of locked into that pass catching role for now. In the Niners Raiders game, we got a lot of action from the starters. We didn't have Juwan Jennings playing in this one, still with the calf. Ayuk is still coming back from the ACL. He's not going to be ready for the start of the season. We did see Ricky Pearsall ball out on the first drive with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy only played 11 snaps. I believe it was one full drive from the starters. And Ricky Pearsall got targeted 4 times, caught 3 balls for 42 yards. So what I was saying, the thing I'm not going to do is exactly what I'm doing right now. He just looked really fucking good. And it's very clear that him and Purdy have a legit chemistry. So I don't really care about the stats, but he's on there playing every single snap with Purdy right now. And Ayuk's not going to be ready. Juwan Jennings, we still don't really have a concrete update here. I expect him to be ready for week 1 because he's gotten adamant time to like recover from this multi-week calf strain at this point. But him and Ricky are going to be the wide receiver 1 and 2 in this offense. And those are guys that I want to target. And at this point, I'd rather target Ricky Pearsall. He's been a guy that we've been relatively high on. If you have the draft guide and you have our rankings going into your draft, there's a really good chance that you got Ricky Pearsall because we have him, I think, as the 74th or 76th ranked overall player in the draft guide, which would get you him in like the early mid 7th round. So continue targeting him. On the flip side, we got some Genty action. Geno Smith played 15 snaps. Ashton Genty played 14 of the 15. The only snap he came off for, he was like hurt. He went to the medical tent, literally came out like a play, 2 plays later, ran a guy over, got into the end zone on a 1-yard score. There is just no limitation to how many touches this kid is going to get in year 1. So listen, he's not a guy that I'm going to be picking top 5, but the argument of like he's a rookie is really, really outdated and should not be made because Genty's going to get a shitload of work in this offense. The other takeaway I have from the Raiders game here is the wide receivers are pretty much set in stone. We now have all the training camp reports now backed up by back-to-back preseason games where pretty much every single snap that Geno Smith is out there, it's Jacoby Myers, it's Trey Tucker, and it's Deontay Thornton Jr. Now, we know Jacoby. Jacoby's like a cool 7th round pick, whatever. He's going to give you a nice floor as a PPR player. Really rock solid pick there. Trey Tucker, kind of undersized speed guy. He's not going to be a serious fantasy player. Deontay Thornton Jr., the 4th round rookie out of Tennessee, very intriguing. He's officially going to make my late round sleeper list going into drafts this year. He is 6'5". He is 205. He played in the SEC. He ran a 4.30, 4.3 flat 40-yard dash at 6'5", 205. Last year at Tennessee, averaged 25.4 yards per reception. By far and away the highest number in the entire NCAA. The kid can fly. He is a downfield playmaker. And this offense, man, like Trey Tucker, he's a guy that's going to run routes downfield. But like Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers are possession guys over the middle. They're going to eat you up in the intermediate parts of the field. You know Geno Smith wants to sling the ball. I really feel like they're going to open up and throw a lot of down balls to Deontay Thornton Jr. here. I'm excited to see what he can do. Again, he could be a guy that you might drop pretty quickly into the season, but I also think he's got some real untapped upside here. And, you know, he was picked after Jack Best. Jack Best was the 2nd round pick. I think he's more of a replacement for Jacoby Myers. They have a similar skill set. But Deontay Thornton like had to work. He had an uphill battle here. He was a rookie 4th rounder when they already took a 2nd rounder ahead of him. And he came out and just, you know, blew people away and got into the starting lineup and has not lost that spot yet. So put him on your deep radar sleeper list. And speaking of moving these guys up and down our rankings, as you're probably aware of by this point, we have our draft guide live for you guys right now, which has all of our rankings in there, PPR, half PPR, whatever, positional, super flex, tight end premium, all that kind of stuff, as well as our must draft players, our fade list, our favorite sleepers after round 10, and the full detailed write-ups of all these preseason recaps are in the draft guide right now. So if you want to just skip all the bullshit, if you want the absolute best way to dominate your draft, go to BDGE.co. You could purchase it straight from there, and you may be qualified for one of our partner offers, all right? So when you're on BDGE.co, you can get it for a heavily, heavily discounted price. Super duper on sale. Click on the partner offers button in the top right of the website, all right? BDGE.co. See if you qualify. If you do, you will get it for a stupid discount. Go get the draft guide, dominate your draft, all right? There was a bunch of games where none of the starters played on either side. You could say that for Miami and Detroit. None of the starters played. Isaac Tesla, the rookie 3rd rounder, keeps like flashing, making plays every time he's given the opportunity, but still against the backup. So, you know, there's still a lot of obviously really good target competition ahead of him. Cleveland Browns and Philadelphia Eagles both rested all of their starters. The Ravens and the Cowboys rested all of their starters. I will say Miles Sanders did play with Joe Milton in this one. So for me, they rested Javonte Williams. Jaden Blue is dealing with a foot bruise, a foot injury right now, so he didn't play in this one. But they rested Javonte Williams, which does point to the fact that like all the reports this summer about Javonte Williams kind of being the clear RB1 are coming to fruition right now. And I feel like he's a decent bet to make in fantasy this year where he's going. He's, a 10th, 11th, 12th round pick. And he's pretty dusty right now, but this is a Dallas offense that should be pretty good and should allow for some opportunities for a running back to just kind of be there and roll into the end zone if he's the starter. I covered a lot of the Packers stuff already. They played against the Colts. They're still in that QB battle. This week, Daniel Jones started, which was the plan after Anthony Richardson started last week. Then A-Rich came in after Jones was done and played the remainder of the first half. I still think neither of them have really separated, like similar to the Saints situation where like they both had good or okay plays. A-Rich is obviously flash some of that like crazy upside, but it's not about having one play sample sizes where you're like, no one else can do that. Cool. But like no one else also has 4 bad plays in a row. Like that's the difference here. So all those upside flashy plays are fun and good to see, but we're seeing very little consistency with either of these guys. I will tell you, in the Colts offense, the one consistent that you are seeing week to week, down to down, every single time the Colts are on the field is Tyler fucking Warren, man. I got to be honest. And you guys know, if you've been following me through my dynasty content, he was by far and away my tight end one. Loved him in college. Penn State thought his film was just phenomenal. Was worried about him for redraft, but I got to say, like watching this team play over the first 2 preseason games, and I don't want to go crazy because I'm not going to move him up from like tight end 12 up to like tight end 5, but he has a super legitimate role in this offense. He is playing every single down with the starting offense. He is getting open. He is getting targets. He's getting deep targets. He's getting screen targets. Like Tyler Warren, I think, is going to be an impact player, if not the impact player in this offense starting in year 1. This kid is phenomenal. Another rookie that has been absolutely phenomenal, obviously, TreVeyon Henderson. We look to the Vikings and the Pats. The Vikings didn't play any of their starters. With the Pats, there's nothing really to take away from the passing game, as like that's just going to be a mess of a wide receiver room. Stephon Diggs is not playing in the preseason at all. He's going to be the alpha there. I don't really think I want to draft anyone else in that wide receiver room. I think Kyle Williams is a fun name, a flashy name, but right now it's such a mix of snaps between Kayshon Boutte, Matt Collins, Pop Douglas, and then Kyle Williams. He's kind of become an afterthought. And like, I think we know what's going to happen. Like Matt Collins is going to play an uncomfortable amount of snaps. He'll have games where he scores like a touchdown. It's like, cool, whatever. But those guys are just going to be on the field, and it's going to be hard for Kyle Williams to be like a high impact player in fantasy. What's more interesting is obviously the backfield here between TreVeyon and Ramondre. Ramondre did not play in this one, but Antonio Gibson just kind of slotted in for him. A-Gibbs got the start in this one. Not surprising, because no matter what split this happens to be, it's going to be a committee in some sense. Henderson did outsnap him 9-6, and you're seeing Henderson where I think my opinion might be shifting a little bit. Like I'm not really, looking at these games and being like, whoa, Henderson just ran for another touchdown against the backup defensive team. I don't care about that. But what I do think is happening as I'm watching these games is the splits are going a little bit more away from like, okay, you're the early down grinder, you're the third down pass catching back, to more of like a David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs split, where it's like the skill set of those two backs does dictate that those would be those roles, but that's not how they actually play, right? It's like, okay, DeMont might take this entire drive, then Gibbs gets this entire drive. When we're down inside the 10, it's like you have no idea who's actually going to be out there. They're both just good in that area of the field. And that's what we saw on the field for this one. Now, I don't know if that's because it was like Gibson and you're just like, we're not going to play Gibson as much as we're playing Ramondre Stevenson, and Ramondre not being out here, let's just give TreVeyon Henderson more work here. I'm not sure if I already said this, but Henderson outsnapped him 9-6 in this one. Henderson got carries inside the 10-yard line again. He got targeted on a wheel route, and he's been really good. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a committee, and Henderson's ADP is going to continue to rise. The more he does in this preseason, the more the reports that come out, he's going to keep moving up and up and up and up. I don't know what his ADP is going to be by the time like September 2nd hits, when a lot of people are actually drafting. The third round, without a doubt, off limits for me. I think the other thing to really consider here is like, while we like the Patriots to be a better team, I still think there are a lot of question marks on this offense. Like their receiver room is still fucking bad. Diggs is 31 coming off an ACL tear. Matt Collins, Kayshon Boutte, like those are the other guys. Like it's fun to see all this hype throughout the preseason. And I was someone that was like hyping them up relative to where they were last year. They were an unwatchable product. But now we're at the point where it's like, okay, we need to play against like, if the Vikings are playing their starters and you got Brian Flores scheming up, Patriots are going to have a lot more trouble moving the ball. And everyone on this offense not going to look as good as they did in this preseason game. So with the Patriots offense, I think you have a little bit of systemic risk. I think their defense is going to be really, 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 really good, which I don't think is going to force them to need to make a lot of explosive plays. And I think their offensive line should definitely be improved. Like Will Campbell coming in there is an automatic improvement. But a lot of the names that they added onto the offensive line are not necessarily like needle movers. They're nice to say, and they're for sure upgrades from the absolute atrocity that they had on the line last year, but that's what it is, so I don't want to go like crazy buying into this offense right now and buying into Trayvon Henderson 3rd round. I'm gonna be honest, 4th round, even then feels early for me. Like I don't want to take Trayvon Henderson over guys that I know the role of, that I feel confident in the offense of, the Kenneth Walkers, the James Connors of the world, maybe right behind them if you want to talk yourself into that. But I'm not going to jump head over heels into this committee of an unknown offensive system right now. The two LA teams played against each other, Chargers, Rams. The Rams rested all their starters. Jarquez Hunter played more than Blake Corum did, which was the reverse of last year. Either way, I don't know who the RB2 is, but Kyron Williams continues to get rested. Realistically, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters in this offense is whether or not Matthew Stafford is playing in week 1 and he can sustain health over the course of the season. Us talking about who the fuck's getting a 60-40 split between Hunter and Corum right now doesn't matter. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert played 8 snaps. Martin Hampton played all 8 snaps with him. Another good sign there. The wide receiver room, Ladd played all 8. Behind him, you have Keenan Allen played 5 of 8 snaps, which again, I think is going to be par for the course. As he gets ramped up, I really expect him to be a 70-75% snap player this year and be a fine pick in PPR leagues. Quentin Johnston got the start, but like I said, he got knocked out of the game pretty quickly. And instead of Trey Harris coming in, Keandre Lambert-Smith actually came in and filled in for Quentin Johnston. And he got targeted on a nice deep route and a nice deep ball, like immediately when he went in the game. Like he continues to make the most of his opportunity. So him and Deontay Thornton, I'm kind of looking at them the same way. Like I really like these dudes as late round targets that fit into their offense really, really well, and are pieces in an offense that don't have anything redundant on top of them. Now, I don't know that KLS is on top of Trey Harris on the depth chart. I think part of the reason that he came in over Trey Harris is that he's been working primarily almost solely as the X, and that's what Quentin Johnston has been. And Trey Harris has been working as the Z. So those are two different positions, obviously. And because Trey Harris had the contract disputes for a while and he got on the field, just a couple of weeks ago, he might not fully know like both positions outright. So Quentin Johnston just out of nowhere goes out of the game. They might not be comfortable being like, Trey Harris, go play that position, where KLS knows that. So I don't want to say that KLS is over Trey Harris, because obviously the draft capital difference is massive there, 2nd round to 5th or 6th round, wherever KLS was picked. But I will say, he's making the most of his opportunities. Every time he's on the field, he's making a big play. Hands are good. Routes are good. Like, this is an offense that could use a downfield playmaker like him. So another guy like late rounds in your redraft leagues, smash and stain. New York. We'll move off of LA. It's kind of funny, like the New York preseason game, if you're not from the New York area, you don't give a fuck about it. And you're like, this is the worst game ever. But like a lot of my friends that I grew up with are Giants fans or Jets fans, and they always go to this preseason game, and it's like kind of a big deal for them, which is pretty fucking embarrassing. But it is what it is. And what's more embarrassing is just the fucking Jets offense, man. It's getting worse by the day watching Justin Fields throw the ball, man. His like catchable target rate, first off, his like average depth of throw throughout this entire summer in these preseason games is about 2 yards down the field. He can't hit a receiver to save his life. I'm trying to be unbiased here, and I'm trying to just stick to the numbers and the usage. It's going to get fucking ugly in New York, man. It's going to get ugly for Justin Fields. Played 18 snaps. Garrett Wilson played all 18. We don't have a question about that. Josh Reynolds, clear wide receiver 2. 17 snaps here. The backfield, again, a split. Breece Hall played 11 snaps. Braylon Allen played 8. So we have a 60-40. We have a 58-42. And that is without Isaiah Davis playing in this one. When he is on the field, that's going to get even fucking messier. I'm hitting shit. I'm tuned up about the Jets right now. So you guys can disagree with me. You can say that, Justin Fields is the savior out here. He made DJ Moore the best player ever. Garrett Wilson's too talented. He's going to see too many targets. Breece Hall is too good. I'm just staying away from the Jets offense. I am just not drafting the Jets offense. I don't think Justin Fields is a good quarterback. I don't even think he's going to be that great for fantasy this year, despite the rushing stuff. I'm just out. I don't want to be a part of that offense. I will say the one positive takeaway is that Mason Taylor, the 2nd round tight end out of LSU this year, who like 10 days ago, they're like, he's got a high ankle sprain. I'm like, okay, he's off. He's done. He's done for the year, right? He's off my board. He's like back at practice 4 days later. I was like, who's reporting this shit? Who's reporting this? Anyways, he was back on the field. Good to see, because Fields did have a good connection with Cole Kmet, and like he's not running downfield routes that I think will be super inaccurate from Justin Fields. So Mason Taylor, deep round sleeper. On the Giants side of things, not much more to take away. Russ played 15 snaps. Malik Neighbors did not play. Haven't really talked about his injury. He's got the toe injury that he's dealing with. He's missed like a week and a half now out of practice. We're going to need an update soon over there. I don't know if they're just like, even if it's just like, hey, we're just resting him for the rest of the preseason, that makes us feel better about where it is rather than being like, oh, we're holding him out of practice right now because of the toe. It makes it feel more serious, you know? So I'm not moving him down my rankings. Like he's still, you know, a first round pick for me, but like I'd like to see some sort of update. That'd be kind of nice, right? Outside of that, we're not drafting wide receivers on the Giants. We are drafting a lot of Tyrone Tracy though. What else? Tampa Bay, most of the starters did not play. Talked about Jalen McMillan's injury. Emeka Egbuka played all 19 snaps with Teddy Bridgewater, who was the starter, 19 snaps. So like clear, he's going to have a very, very big role. The other nice little underlying sexy part about this game for Tampa Bay was Bucky Irving did play. He played 18 of 19 snaps with Teddy B. 8 carries in this one. He ran 9 routes. He ran a beautiful wheel route for a touchdown catch in the end zone. Rashad White was out with the groin injury. And I think when Rashad White's back, he's going to move back into a pass catching role. But they've been talking it up all summer about how Bucky is talented enough to have this 3-down workhorse role. And this was them like showing us that they believe that. So Bucky could be a movie this year, all right? For Pittsburgh, they rested Rodgers, Metcalf, Jonnu, Pat Freiermuth, and Jaylen Warren. This is the second week in a row they've rested Jaylen Warren while playing Kenneth Gainwell and Caleb Johnson, Mason Rudolph under center. It's a little bit worrisome for Caleb Johnson. I will say, based on the usage so far, it's clear that Warren's going to start the year as the starter. And I'm going to move Caleb Johnson down my rankings a little bit. I'm not worried about him being like underneath Kenneth Gainwell on the depth chart. I don't think that's like a thing. I think they're just, you couldn't find 2 more opposite types of players. I do think some of this probably has to do with the fact that just the team overall, Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith, feel really comfortable with Jaylen Warren. And he's like their one known commodity in the backfield, where Gainwell and Caleb Johnson are both new. They're brand new to the team and brand new to the system. So they need these reps. Whereas Jaylen Warren is a veteran and he's already familiar with the system. So if he's like the one player that you do trust, you don't need to trot him out in preseason to learn the system because he already knows it. But I think it'd be safe to assume that, you know, we're going into the year with Warren as the starter. I do think this is still 100% going to be a committee. All of them are going to get carries. I think Caleb Johnson will still finish the year as the leading carry getter out here, but still, you know, something to be noteworthy of. For the Cardinals and the Broncos, the Cardinals sat everybody. The Broncos sat most of their players. Jarrett Stidham did get the start. It's not really about who played, but who did not play in this one, because they sat Courtland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and Devon Vele, who seem to be locked into the 3 starting wide receiver spots for this team right now. The backfield is a more tricky dissection. So RJ Harvey played with Jarrett Stidham in this one. He played 10 of the 13 snaps. J.K. Dobbins got the starter treatment and he rested with the other guys. Now, it was flipped last weekend where RJ Harvey basically played, 80% of the snaps with Bo Nix, and J.K. Dobbins was strictly a 3rd down guy. However, there was a report that came out from a very respected Broncos beat report that said Dobbins was actually supposed to start last week and he couldn't find his helmet on. This is serious. I'm not making this up. Couldn't find his helmet on the sideline and therefore didn't go into the game at first. So it was RJ Harvey who got the start and played that role instead of Dobbins. So, I don't know whether that story is like actually true. I don't know what the takeaway is there, but I will say Harvey playing with Stidham, could be, again, just getting more familiar with the system, want to get more reps there. But it's something to note that Dobbins didn't play at all in this one. And you guys know I kind of went into some of the film with RJ Harvey about him bouncing every run outside, and that became a problem. And there are some sources inside the building, some player personnel that are out there on the defense that they're saying the same thing, that they're like, he needs to learn how to read and hit holes out here. Played a lot better in this one. Again, don't want to like go crazy on how well he played, given like the Broncos offensive line is so good and he's playing against backups against Arizona. So like, I don't care that he scored a touchdown, but he was running up the middle a lot more purely. So maybe they got in his face about that. Regardless, I think this committee is going to be much closer. Like the summer started, RJ Harvey was like the RB 18 in best ball drafts. And J.K. Dobbins was like the RB 40 even after he got signed. So that gap should be a lot closer. You're still taking Harvey because of the upside, obviously, the explosiveness, the pass catching ability, and a Sean Payton offense. but like Dobbins shouldn't be left as nothing. Like they might have a similar touch count by the end of the year. And the last game that we just had on, I'm filming this Sunday night. The 8 o'clock Bears game has not started. There's also a Monday night game, the Bengals game, which won't be in this video. So if something happens then, I apologize, but I wanted to get this out. For the Jacksonville game, we got some more snaps from Trevor Lawrence, 17 snaps. Cool to see. Travis Hunter did not play in this one. And unexpectedly, the backfield went back to a split of 50-50 between Etienne and Bigsby. Last week was weird, man. Like Trevor Lawrence played, I think 12 snaps and Etienne played all 12 with him. I don't know if like Bigsby was getting disciplined or something like that, but that did not align with the reports that we were hearing all summer about them being in a committee and Bigsby being the early down guy. And then this game started and Bigsby outsnapped Etienne 9-8. Bigsby got the start. Bigsby was the early down guy. They split snaps for sure, and Etienne's going to be involved. But honestly, the takeaway I'm having from watching the Jags play is I was a little bit skeptical at the beginning of the spring or summer. Just, you know, everyone was like so hyped up, like, cool, Liam Cohen's going to come over and just like fix the offense for sure. The more I'm watching them play, the more progressive it looks and the more excited I am getting about Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, and honestly, both backs back there, Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne, even Bashaw Tootin as like a high upside late round flyer guy if one of those guys goes down. But I'm really enjoying watching this offense, even if it is a vanilla version of what they're going to be in the regular season. They're using motion fantastically. They're using it on most of their plays. They're utilizing play action. They're getting Brian Thomas Jr. involved in the slot heavily. Like, I think this is going to be a really, really nice offense to actually invest into. But still, at the end of the day, like, I'm not confidently drafting one running back over the other. So I've been preaching the same thing for the last month or so. If someone in your league is overconfident about knowing one of these guys is going to separate, let him take them, and you could take the other guy at cost or at value or whatnot. On the Saints side, I mean, it's still a quarterback battle between Shuck and Rattler, and like most of these other quarterback battles, I don't think either of them have played well enough to separate. So we might get an announcement sooner rather than later because teams want to know who their starting quarterback is, but I don't know that anyone's like earned it outright yet. I don't know. They've shown some good things. They've shown some bad things. Doesn't make me overly optimistic for Olave or Rashid Shaheed, which are the only guys you're really targeting in these offenses outside of Alvin Kamara, who did not play in this one. So yeah, like I'll still draft Chris Olave in the middle round, 6th, 7th round guy because he's just so talented. But that's going to be a frustrating watch throughout the year if Tyler Shuck's out there and, you know, the Saints are just throwing fucking zero balls out there. They're throwing hospital balls. They're throwing pick sixes like on the daily. It's not pretty to watch that product out there in New Orleans right now. So I'm skeptical. Like I'm probably off Rashid Shaheed. I know a lot of people like him, and I think he's a talented wide receiver in his own right. But like, why hasn't he hit yet? Right? That's the counter argument I have to drafting Shaheed. Why hasn't he hit yet? And someone will be like, because he's had bad quarterback play. Yes, he's gonna fucking have that again. You're not gonna have an accurate deep passer. Like I'm already hearing the arguments next year. It's like, oh, he had to play with Tyler Shuck as a rookie and Spencer Rattler. It's like, yeah, we know that before. This is not going to be a surprise to us. We don't get to act surprised next summer. We don't get to act surprised that this new quarterback came out of nowhere and he wasn't great. Like, we know that. We have the information at hand right now. So I'm going to go ahead and fade Shaheed, even as a guy who's going in like the 10th or 11th round. He's just not my style of player that I want to draft, especially not in like actual sit-start leagues where you need to pick which week. Fucking forget about it, all right? I'm done. We'll wrap up the video here. Unless something cool happens in the Bears video, then you might have like 2 more minutes on this video and you'll know that down below. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the button that looks like this down below, and obviously subscribe to the channel if you want updates every Monday morning for the preseason as well as the regular season. And the best way to prepare for your drafts, the absolute nut draw for you, is going to grab the draft guide, bdge.co. Go check out the partner offers page in the top right to see if you qualify for a partner offer. It'll get you our draft guide for a very heavily discounted price. All right, I love y'all. Smoochies.